someplace. Even your emotion had an echo in so much space. And when you out there without care, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know, no. I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly. I hope that you're having the time of your life. Think twice. That's my only advice. Oh, who do you think you are? Oh, bless your soul.
I have to do that sometimes. You know why? Because my elbows are ashy sometimes. Not long ago, hello everybody, not long ago, someone said to me, Mr. Mwewa, that is so unprofessional of you to do some self-grooming while you are live on your podcast. Well, I don't mind so much. Guys, tell me in the comments if you can hear me. First of all, I need to hear from you that I am loud and clear and we can get the show on the road. If there's anything wrong with my sound, I want to hear it from you. As you know, SML TV is a one-man show. I'm out here by myself, loud and clear. This is, who is this? Alice says loud and clear, Mr. SML, and does one of these. Thank you so much. Agnes says loud and clear. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Guys, first of all, before we get into anything else, did you guys watch that whopper of a game? Argentina and France, Mbappe against Lionel Messi, or they call him Lionel Messi. I tell you, I watched that game with my sons, and I'm telling you, we were completely beside ourselves. Of course, I was neutral. I don't really support any one of those teams. One of my sons was an Argentinian fan. The other one was he was supporting France, Argentinian. I'll say it right in a moment. And we had a whopper of a time. What a game. I mean, what a game. Talk about coming back from the brink. Here it is. All hope was lost. The first half of the game, Lionel Messi and his troops were trudging forward in the wake and the victory of a 2-goal lead. And then all of a sudden in the second half, things just totally turned. The whole story turned and flipped because of a young man named Mbappe. Tell you what, I woke up this morning. I don't know what name you were screaming when you woke up this morning. But I'll tell you now, the name that came to my mind when I woke up was Mbappe. I mean, that's all I had on my mind all the way to work. When I got to Great East Road, I would twitch and say, Mbappe. That driver looked at me like I was nuts. He looked at me like I had lost my mind. He looked at me like I was a product of a deranged mind. When I got to Simoson, before I walked out of Mayango, I screamed, Mbappe. You guys must think I'm crazy. All right. Guys, just a few things I want to bring to you. Let me throw it up here. First of all, let's make sure that we've got the date right and everything else. Uh, I have to share this with you. I do. I have to share this with you. Let me bring something to you guys that oftentimes I don't like talking about. I'm not a big, I'm not really into revealing certain things about my life because there's certain things I don't think are necessary. But there is an undertone. There is something that you guys have to be made aware of. Only because if you don't hear it from me, you will get the wrong information. And you have to believe that whatever I bring to you, when I do bring it to you, I try to be as honest as possible with my audience. There's nothing in me that tries to deliberately deceive you or try to deliberately hoodwink you or mislead you or guide you in the wrong way. This platform is not about that. I have to be as truthful as possible. The times that I do get it wrong, panto na ba CNN. Sometimes ba CNN na wala pang mistakes. When CNN makes a mistake, very quickly they retract it. I do the same thing. When I put out information to you that is inaccurate or that is off kilter, that is out of balance, I do everything within my power to be honest with you and say, you know what, I made a mistake there. I shouldn't have done that. And somehow in Zambia on social media, there's this idea. I don't know where you guys get this, and you really should move away from this. There's this idea that when you apologize or when you admit that you did wrong or when you show some type of remorse for a statement or a comment or something that you put up and you said, you know what, I shouldn't have done that and I'm sorry. Somehow, most of you social media audience members, somehow you perceive that as weakness. You perceive that as a kink in the armor. You perceive that as a blight. You perceive that as a flaw. But that's not the way life is. When you're wrong, you're wrong. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. You come and say, hey, you know what? I missed the mark there. I shouldn't have said that, shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. Boom, you're done. But if you adopt this attitude of, no, I've got to be right every single time, you're not going to get very far. You're not, okay? Guys, tell me in the comments, am I too loud? I'm using these new headphones, and they're not as, they might be giving me a different sort of, tell me if I'm too loud. Am I too loud? Tell me now, because if I am, I'll reduce the volume here. There's not, sometimes when, and the reason I've interjected and stopped here to ask you this is because I'm a viewer and I'm a listener. There are people I listen to. I don't want them screaming in my ear. It's too loud. Oh, somebody says not too loud. Loud and clear from Yemen. Not too loud. Okay, so it's fine. Thank you. That's all I needed to know. I don't want to scream in your ear. Right. No, you are not loud. Benjamin, thank you. You're just okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Paul Smith. Appreciate that so much. So I said all of that, and let me be clear. The reason I said all of that is I want you guys to know that I want to be as forthright as I can. So anyway, a few years ago, let's first of all talk about this character, this Cosmo Mumba. Now, many of you have been misled. People don't realize that this was the original Chilufya Tayali. People don't know this. People don't realize that Cosmo Mumba was the original Chilufya Tayali. Before there was a Chilufya Tayali, there was a Cosmo Mumba. The only difference is Cosmo Mumba was dumb, he was too dumb to understand the power of social media. The problem is Cosmo Mumba is not sharp enough to understand and to wield the power of social media. Chilufya Tayali, although he is a scoundrel, and he is, although Chilufya Tayali is an opportunist, and he is, although Chilufya Tayali is a Judas, and he is, he at least understands the power of social media. Chilufya understands the power of repetition. Cosmo Mumba knows nothing about that. He's dumber than a box of hammers. So anyway, Cosmo initially, he started out on social media. He's trying to do a few things here and there. Let me give you the backstory of this man. This man is someone that is known to us. We hired him here at Simoson. He was a supervisor here. But then we began to notice that, he had a completely different agenda. And unfortunately, he began to tell people that he owned this establishment, Simoson Building. Now, let's be clear. Simoson Building was built by Dr. Simon Chushimwewa, who is my father. He passed away about 16 years ago. And myself and my siblings and my mother, we are the proprietors of this estate. Okay? Now, what we began to hear was that he was going around telling people that he owned this building, which is the most preposterous thing, because, first time we heard this, we said, well, that can't be true. I mean, why would he say that? Now, let's be clear. Cosmo Mumba is not our relative. He's not our blood relative. He's someone we know. He simply happens to have the last name Mumba. He went around telling people that he's the young brother to Nevis Mumba. That's not true. That is absolutely not true. There's nothing truthful about that. He capitalized on his last name and his association with us, and he began to tell the world that he was related to Dr. Nevis Mumba. He was the young brother to, which is not true. He's an imposter. So he went around telling people that he owned this building. So we sat him down, my siblings and I, and we said to him, look, we can't have this. You can't go around telling people that you own the building. You don't. And you can't go around using the name Mwewa to get your way. And guess what we did? We fired him. That's what we did. We got rid of him. We kicked him to the curb, is what we did. We got rid of him. Now, I'll never forget the day that we fired him. He said to me, he looked at me and he said, if you fire me, I will destroy Simoson. That's what he said. I looked at him and I said, exactly how do you propose to do that? Because you have no roots here. And there are people like this. There are people that they think in their minds, they somehow think that they're your relation, and because you've known them, you gave them a little job, they somehow think that they have a certain way with you and a certain position, which really didn't exist. It only existed in his mind. We simply gave him a job of supervisor. He took it to the zenith. He just propelled that thing and he just took advantage of it. When we realized the damage that he was doing, my siblings and I very quickly got rid of him. We fired him. And that is the reason from that day forward, he's always had an axe to grind with us. Always. He's been peddling lies about my family and I for years. And it doesn't stop. He's one of these guys that simply doesn't stop. He's like the Energizer Bunny. Okay? And the one person that gave him that oomph, in English it's called the oomph. Ever heard of oomph? Abatumpike Cosmo Niba Sata, the late President Michael Sata. Eba tumpike Cosmo Mumba. Ba Sata bale pela Cosmo impia ukuya tukaba nevas. Cosmo Mumba was very close to the late Michael Sata. Very, very close. I'll never forget, and I've told this story before. I'll never forget going to State House with, I won't mention who I went there with, but we went to see Mr. Sata. And Mr. Sata is someone I knew. Mr. Sata and my late father, Dr. Simon Moore, were very good friends. Mr. Sata's children and I are good friends. You know, I often say to you, there are only 6 degrees of separation between all of us. We all know someone that knows someone that knows someone that knows that person. It's called the 6 degrees of separation. Anyway, so we get to State House, and you know, you remember the late President Michael Sata was a very unconventional president. He was very unpredictable. You know, oftentimes you didn't know what he was thinking. Sometimes he would just say stuff, you know, he would just say them. We walked into his office. This is at State House. I'm telling you the truth. True story. We walk in. We find the person I went there with. We find Mr. Sata scolding one of his ministers in the presence of Cosmo Mumba. This Cosmo. And I'll never forget Mr. Sata's words. I mean, I didn't know why Mr. Sata was yelling at his minister. I won't say the minister's name. But Mr. Sata was railing into him. Just, I mean, literally ripping him up and down, raking him over the coals. Finally, Mr. Sata looked at the minister and says, "Anyway, ngatamuni careful. Cosmo." And there was Cosmo standing there with a silly grin on his face. And I looked and I thought, is this the man our president trusts? The entire president of Zambia is saying that I will leave the presidency to this clown? From that day forward, that's where Cosmo Mumba grew his wings. He thought he was invincible. And this is the reason when Mr. Sata died, you remember this. I mean, this is all documented. There's no secret about this. This really happened, you know. When Mr. Sata's body came in at the airport, Cosmo Mumba, he pretended to faint. Why? To draw attention to himself and deflect attention from the fact that the nation was grieving. All of a sudden, for the briefest of moments, everybody started talking about Cosmo fainting when Basata's body arrived. The mark of a con man is to hoodwink you to where he deflects attention from the main event, and then the issue becomes about him. Everybody was talking about, oh, Cosmo fainted, you know. And the whole time, we've seen through Cosmo for years. I mean, the guy really he's nothing but a crook. He's a con man, he's a crook, he's a shyster. He's a charlatan, for goodness sake. So that passed. And then we started hearing that, you know, he disappeared, he went to the Congo to acquire some type of doctorate. And then he came back with the title of Dr. Cosmo Mumba. And this is why I have a gripe with journalists in Zambia. Do you know that kufialo fiabanenso gawaita doctor, when you call yourself as doctor, abanenso ku America, ku London, ku England, ku fialo wale pusha, they ask, oh, you're a doctor, are you? Maka, especially when you put your name forward for a political position. If you're a private citizen and you call yourself a doctor, nobody will care. But when you try to become a public servant, when you put your name forward as a potential political leader, people want to know who you are. It doesn't matter which tier you offer yourself, whether it's MP or councillor or member of parliament, whatever. As long as you place yourself forward, you put your name forward and say, I would like to be a leader in this community. All of a sudden, people want to know your background. So if you call yourself a doctor, it's right and it's due diligence for journalists to ask, you say you're a doctor. What are you a doctor of? But in Zambia, we don't ask such questions. We don't. Doctor. Namu press, namu Daily Mail, namu newspaper, whatever it's a quote, Dr. Cosmo. And every time I would see that, I would grimace. I would cringe. It would literally make me sick to my stomach because I know this guy. I'm thinking, why are they calling him doctor when he doesn't have a doctorate? He didn't get a doctorate from a recognized, accredited institution of higher learning. Are you getting that? My goodness, Zambia, wake up! Doctor. And you are even quoting him in Daily Mail. Dr. Cosmo Mumba today said, bunch of clowns. And let me tell you something else. This name, Cosmo, that's not his name. This is not his given name. This is not the name his mother gave him. His name was Collins. His real name, his government name is Collins. But because he didn't like Collins, he didn't like the name Collins. He says, I'm just going to change my name. He changed it on his own. An imposter. An imposter if I've ever seen one. So here it is. Now, then after we fired him, and I'll be honest with you. Okay, let me just be honest. I fired him. I did. I fired him. When I fired him, he went on this crazy rampage as a disgruntled ex-worker. The guy was like a postman. He went on this rampage. First of all, he started saying, I was the stepson to Dr. Simon Weil. That was his first thing. Okay. He was yelling that for years. No, Chitambala is not even the son to Simon Weil. Well, if that was true, what the heck am I doing in the position that I'm in? First of all, okay? He said that for many years. Then it changed. Then he says, no. Dr. Simon Weil is actually you're not his first son or his first child. It never stops with him. Never. So here's the thing. Oh, the other thing. Let me mention this. I love this part. I do. I love this part. I could tell you stories. My goodness. Could I tell you stories? I will be here for days. Conrad says, I love this. Conrad says, very soon we'll be here at Chirufia Dr. Chirufia Tayali. Muleti Wufi. Already, Tayali calls himself a lawyer. You would be shocked how many people actually think he's a lawyer. I mean, I have met people who think that he's a lawyer. They think that he went to Zayale, he passed his bar exam. You see how deceptive, how easy it is to deceive people on social media? Anyway, so let me tell you the story. You guys know how this road was named Simon Mwewa Lane. We've been here for 33 years. For many years, this road was nameless. It didn't have a road. We used to pay the Zambia Mukobeko. Is it Mukobeko? Chimbokaila. Which one's Chimbokaila? Mukobeko, Chimbokaila. Where's the one near here in Lusaka? It was Chimbokaila, I think. We used to pay the prison service in those days. We used to pay them 1 million kwacha, which is equivalent, I think, to 1,000 kwacha per week or something like that. We used to pay them 1 million kwacha many, many years ago to come and sweep the road. And we did that for years. We did it for about maybe 3 or 4 years. So finally, we wrote to the council and we said, we would be honored if you could name the street Simon Mwewa Lane after my late father. And the council was very gracious to us. It was Mayor Chikwerete at the time. Some of you remember him. He was the mayor at that time. We did all the official stuff, We wrote the letter, we paid the fees, and then finally they approved it, and it was named Simon Mwewa Lane. Well, Cosmo and his brother, there's another notorious thief. He hangs around here ever so often. His name is we call him Baton. Well, Cosmo and his little brother, because these guys, they cut from the same cloth. They come from a lineage of crookery. Cosmo and his wayward brother started complaining. Why did the government name this road Simon Mwewa Lane? This road should be named Edgar Chagwalungu Lane, they would say. I mean, they went on and on and on. So Cosmo, after Cosmo learned that we had successfully named this road Simon Mwewa Lane, guess what he did? He went, while Miles Sampa was away, Cosmo bribed some official there at Lusaka City Council to get his name approved for a road in Kanyama that Cosmo decided to name Cosmo Mumba Street. All because he didn't like the fact that one of our roads here was named after Dr. Simon Mwewa. Cosmo goes and he says, okay, since Simon Mwewa has a name named after him, I'm going to have a road named after me. Now, that's fine. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But the problem I have is, and I wrote this, and I'm on record. I've said this. Roads should be named after people that contributed significantly to a community. Roads should not be named after crooks, con men. Cosmo Mumba has so many cases in court. He's in court right now. There's a woman that he stole land from there in Kabwata. The people that used to own Mobi TV? Their relative, Mobi TV was eventually bought out by Diamond TV, but their relative has a piece of land there in Kabwata that Cosmo Mumba stole. She sued Cosmo Mumba. She won the case. To this day, Cosmo Mumba is still on that piece of land, and every single time she goes to complain, guess what Cosmo does? He pulls out a pistol and he threatens to shoot her. Are those the people we're naming roads after? And I complained about this. I wrote to the town clerk. Guys, it's got nothing to do with jealousy. It has everything to do with the fact that, look, if you're going to name a street after someone, it should be named after someone that contributed positively to a community, whoever that is. We should move away from naming roads after just anyone. Bantu Parasti will be naming roads after crooks. Crooks. Charlatans. That's what it means. Oh, I mean, my complaint just fell on deaf ears. Council, I remember the town clerk wrote me a letter. He says, Mr. Mwewa, we've received your complaint. We're going to look into it. To this day, boom, nothing. That road is still there. It's still called Cosmo Mumba Street. And he's been fighting for that for years. Again, I don't mind that. I mean, but what I mind is, what I find upsetting is you can't have roads named after crooks. You can't do that. Come on. Would America name a road after Osama bin Laden? Tell me that. Would America? in New York City. Name a road after Osama bin Laden. Absolutely not. That's ridiculous. Oh, dear. My goodness. My goodness. So now Cosmo, I mean, and he'll never stop. He will never stop. If it's not one thing, it's another. And so, and honestly, really, the truth is, we expect this, and it won't stop here. There was a time he would come here after we fired him. He would come here. You know, when I mentioned the pistol, he would, just as a show of defiance, he would walk through Simoson with a pistol. And he would say to me, if you speak to me, I'll shoot you. And the way I know Cosmo Mumba, because I know how unstable he is, he could do it. He could do it. We would, the moment he would come through here, would go to the police. By the time the police show up, Cosmo gone. And he'll just disappear for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he'll just appear with a pistol. That Clive Chikula, remember the case I had, the assault case? I was in court for a year with Cosmo Mumba's Secretary General. His name is Clive Chikula. Clive was a Tamanga here at Simoson. We had to remove Clive Chikula from here. He had no shop. He was not a tenant. He was not a Simoson business owner. He was just a Tamanga. You know what a Tamanga is? A Tamanga is someone that stands by the gate when a customer comes with a spare part. This is Clive Chikula, who was the SG, the Secretary General to Cosmo's ridiculous, foolish party, whatever the hell it's called. You know, it's just him and the SG and Cosmo Mumba's wife, 3 people in the party. It's like Tayali's party, okay? This Clive Chikula would take the spare part, and then he would tell the customer, no, you sit here, and then start walking through Simoson shops, negotiating prices. Finally, he would extort the customer by charging 3-4 times more than what that product actually costs. Our Simoson business owners began to complain. They would say, look, these guys are messing with our business. We had to have Clive Chikula, Cosmo Mumba's Secretary General, we had to have him removed from Simoson. I asked the guards, I said, chuck him out. You're in an act. Yakulanda to chuck him out. The next day, police officers came to pick me up with a medical report. Mr. Mwewa, you've been accused of assault. Can we go to the police? I was arrested. The police said to me, Clive just wants 5,000 kwacha from you, and this case goes away. I said, you've got to be out your cotton picking mind. I looked at Clive and I said, Clive, you've got to be nuts. I'm not giving you not one kwacha, not one ingwe. Clive says, okay, in that case, we're going to go to court. You remember there was a time I had to fly to South Africa. My brother wasn't feeling well. I went to South Africa. Clive went on social media. Oh, Mwewa has this. He has run away. He's a fugitive. You are supposed to be in court. He's a fugitive. I quickly rushed back. I went straight to the courthouse. I produced the issues and all the evidence, you know. We were in court for 1 year. I defended myself. I didn't even hire a lawyer. And yet the police were telling me, Mr. Mwewa, this assault case, there's a medical document, there are witnesses, just give this Clive the money. You're in a 5 just give him. I looked at that officer, I said, you've got to be crazy. I'm not giving him any money. I'm going to fight this to the bitter end. We were in court for 1 year. I defended myself. I won that case. I was acquitted. Boom. Clive and Cosmo used to come to court every single time we were in session. On the day of judgment, Neither one of them showed up because they knew. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I have to admit, I destroyed those guys in the courtroom. I did. And all credit, this is going to sound crazy, but I'm telling you the truth. This is what helped me. The television show Suits is what helped me. I got a few tips from that show, and I employed them into my defense, and I won. I won! The idiots. Anyway, well, that's all I want to say about him. All right. My brother, my tribal cousin, JJ Banda, I love you, man. I do. I think you're just, and I'll be honest with you, Jay. JJ Banda was a very controversial candidate in PETA-UK, and I didn't have much confidence in him because I was thinking, well, he can't really speak English. He's not an excellent English speaker, but he's putting his name forward as member of parliament. When you go to parliament, as you know, Zambia, our official language is English. And if my thinking at the time was, well, if he can't express himself in English in parliament, how will he effectively represent the people of PETA-UK, or the people of PETA-UK, as he affectionately refers to them? But oh, honey, I was wrong. JJ Banda is a juggernaut in parliament. JJ Banda does everything within his power to effectively represent the people of PETA-UK in parliament. And I am proud to say that PETA-UK has an excellent representative in JJ Banda. I love you, man. I love you. And I look forward to seeing where you're going to go. Now, I heard him say he wants to be president. Well, here's the thing, Jay. You got to walk before you can fly, okay? I'm not saying you can't be president. All I'm saying is just that. You got to walk before you fly. It's a bit premature to start talking about the presidency. But I love you, though. I do. All right, guys, I've been speaking for 37 minutes. That's a long time. All righty. I got to go. Thank you so much. This is Harriet. Harriet says, you've made my morning. Thank you. He is not an eloquent speaker of English. That's true, but he does represent PETA-UK very effectively. Yeah, he does. Bless him. Nashala ne kapati. Cosmo Mumba, party aqua Cosmo. I don't even know what it's called now. It's called the what? The National, what is it? The National Recovery Unit or something like that. The National Redemptive Unit. Cosmo Mumba's party. It's just, I feel about that. Cosmo, uriawi ne Clive Chikula, na abakashi. Banga, batatu. Tayari, bafe babili. No mwine, na uriyo mukashi. No mukashi, she can't vote. So the truth is, abafe eka. Na shala neka party. Ema na shala neka party zaya. Clowns, bunch of clowns, idiots. All right. Well, hey guys, I gotta go. Thank you for that. Thank you for watching. Got my Rodecaster Pro. I gotta go.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place.
Lovely. Hey guys, thank you so much. God bless. Bye.